Today, I'm diving into the wild world of private investigations as I take on the challenge of tracking down some of the most dangerous surveillance targets out there. Private investigations is a profession that requires the utmost care and attention to detail, especially when dealing with surveillance targets that can pose a significant threat to a PI's safety and well being. As a private investigator, it is essential to be aware of the potential dangers that come with the job and to take necessary precautions to avoid putting ourselves and others at risk. Dealing with volatile subjects is an unfortunate reality that private investigators face all too often today. These individuals can be unpredictable, aggressive, and sometimes downright violent, and this makes being on high alert at all times crucial in any investigation. Not only do PIs face the risk of physical harm, but we also risk being burned, made, or just plain caught while doing surveillance. Getting burned presents its own set of complications in the business, to include potential legal repercussions, damage to our reputation, and it could cost us a client. And let's not forget the psychological toll of dealing with these volatile subjects, the stress, the anxiety, the constant looking over your shoulders. Given all these things, I think it is safe to say it is a heavy burden to carry and one that should not be taken lightly. Take, for instance, a case I had a while back where we had to track down a fugitive of justice. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. I know not many PIs are out there tracking down fugitives these days, but it does happen from time to time. There are instances where a subject may be running from the law and be a threat to our client's family, or other interests. I had a tough case just like this a while back. The subject was the soon-to-be ex-husband of our client's daughter. And let me tell you, this guy was a real peach. He had plenty of violence in his past, to include assaults on his wife and other family members. The problem with him was that if you met him, well, he seemed just like a normal everyday Joe without a worry in the world. But he was a bodybuilder, and he took steroids, and he had a drinking problem, which often led to using drugs. And well, you can imagine where all that leads. When the client called, the job appeared to be pretty straightforward. The wife had filed for divorce. He had been served. He got drunk, had some issues with the law, got thrown in the pokey for a few days, but he had just bonded out. The client had his daughter and her kids move in with him and his wife into their house for safety. Now, this client had some money and influence too, and he had some personal security at the house as well. But he also knew what the subject was capable of, so he wanted us to keep a tab on him just in case. We had round-the-clock covert surveillance with 2 investigators going for several weeks, and for the most part, everything went very well. But then he finally broke his normal pattern of going to work, going home, and on occasion going out to get some fast food or make a stop at a grocery store. A lady showed up at his house, and then we followed them to a liquor store where he purchased several cases of beer, bottles of hard liquor, some smokes, and some wine. Bingo. This is what we needed. You see, he had a restraining order to not be in possession of or around anyone who was in possession of drugs or alcohol. We contacted the client and law enforcement. We met with a detective at the sheriff's office, showed him the video evidence we had, and based on that, they were able to obtain an arrest warrant. The cops showed up at his house to effect the warrant, but unfortunately, he had already left. Now, we were doing surveillance on him prior to the cops showing up, and he was followed into the Denver metro area where he went to a large apartment complex. Due to some major complications, we lost visual of him, so we never saw what apartment building he went into, but we knew where his vehicle was. The cops ended up going to the apartment complex and essentially took over from there. They set up surveillance on his vehicle, but in not so covert of a way. When the subject went to leave the next day, something must have spooked him and he took off. Now the client was really worried. Not only did he have a crazed son-in-law out there to worry about, now his son-in-law was a fugitive of the law. So he recontacted us and asked us to try to locate this guy, since it didn't seem like the police were doing much about it. Now, no diss on the police here. It is quite common for the police to not release any information about an ongoing investigation. They have to do this to ensure the integrity of the investigation, and I get it. But many times the families of victims do not understand it and they just assume the police are doing nothing. We started our own locate investigation on the subject, trying to find his whereabouts. We started staking out the homes of known family members and known associates to see if we could get a glimpse of him or see anything suspicious. To complicate things, we had seen the police showing up at these same houses doing door knocks, probably working the same case. I'm sure you can imagine how much that can jeopardize our investigation. Now, the police didn't know we were doing surveillance, but if they did know, they would have probably told us to leave it up to them. After about 3 weeks, we did get some suspicious activity at his brother's house. We saw his brother and 3 other guys taking a keg of beer into the garage and a lot of other alcoholic beverages too. Bingo. It was the weekend before the subject's birthday, so we put 2 and 2 together. Not like this is hard math, right? And we assumed there was probably going to be a birthday party for the subject. We ended up pulling in more resources and setting up perimeter surveillance at a distance, so we had multiple eyes on the house. Later that evening, the guests started arriving, one after another after another. There were probably 40 to 50 people there for the party. Then it happened. One of the investigators got a glimpse of the subject, or at least someone he thought might be the subject. I had 2 investigators, a male and a female, go on foot surveillance. First, they walked away from the residence so as to not draw attention to themselves. They waited at a nearby park for about 20 minutes, then went around the block and walked directly past the brother's house with their covert cameras in hand. When they got directly in front of the house, a couple of the partiers started up a conversation with the investigators, allowing them to stand there for a while, talking, joking, looking like they were part of the party, and grabbing tons of video. Then they continued their walk as if they were returning to their home a few blocks away. I then met them at the park, reviewed the video, and was able to confirm that the subject was there indeed. I contacted law enforcement and was able to send them some stills from the video, and they confirmed it was him, and the real fun began. We maintained surveillance the entire time the police were working up their plans. When they got there, it was in full force. I am talking the SWAT team, police K-9 units, about 10 other cars and vans, you name it, they brought in everything. They went into the garage, had some conversations with some folks, and then they emerged with the subject in cuffs without incident. This turned out to be even more hair-raising for the police as they had some intel which we were not privy to. You see, the brother was tied to a local gang, and this gang was known for selling drugs and other illegal activities. After the cops walked the subject out in cuffs, they brought out 2 other men in cuffs, who we later found out had warrants for arrest too. You see, as surveillance investigators, we can run into subjects with all kinds of issues, be it drugs, alcohol, violent offenders, emotional or mental instability, or many other dangerous issues. And you just never know when they might snap, when they will reach the end of their rope, when they just can't handle their stress anymore. As a private investigator, it's your job to stay calm, stay composed, and always maintain situational awareness, even in the face of chaos. So what can you do to avoid these dangerous situations? Firstly, it is essential to be aware of your limitations and know when to walk away from a case. A wise man once said, "A man's got to know his limitations." If a case feels off or feels too risky, it's better to err on the side of caution and decline the job. Now, I know this might mean losing out on some revenue, but it's better than losing your life. Secondly, you need to stay up to date with the latest surveillance techniques, technologies, and gadgets. Now, if you want to see all of my secret PI gear, then head over to www.howtobeapi.com, or if you want to learn more about being a private investigator, then check out this video.